All right, sweet. So Hoshi isn't exactly new, and Adrian, I'm assuming, is also not exactly new.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever done? Do you guys already know the basics of the overview and how to set one up? Yes.
Yes.
I'm just sitting with the ZTKS.
You're using the ZTech S overview. Okay, right. That's fine. That's perfect because that's the basic overview that I'm going to be discussing and going to be talking about for this class, basically. Because that's the one I use as well, so it's very convenient, no problem whatsoever. Okay, so I'm assuming you guys have all been in multiple fleet fights. Hello, we have a new person here, Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone, how new to the game are you, and what is your experience as far as using the overview is concerned?
I've been playing for about 10, 12 years, and I don't do a whole lot with the overviews. I kind of set them up and leave them alone.
Perfect. So you basically have, I'm assuming currently you're running something like the ZTech S overview?
No, I do all mine custom.
All are custom. Okay, perfect. Theodora Umbrell. Okay, from this point on, I'm just going to progress as if people have already got a basic overview setup and are comfortable using it in regular day-to-day activities such as PvP in GE TAC or in small gang situations or in just the defense fleet. All right, this is the assumption that I'm going to use for now. If anyone does not know how to set up a ZTech S overview or any kind of overview whatsoever, I recommend joining the channel ZTech S overview and following the instructions on that page to get a very basic, very simple overview layout that will get you through 90% of your EVE problem. This class, I think I will direct towards what more you can do with your overview and how it will help you in a variety of like fleet scenarios and small gang situations. All right. Okay. So how many of you guys have actually ever been in a fleet fight and have just been completely overwhelmed by the amount of shit on your overview, like with 1,000 people or 2,000 people? I'm sure since we're in Brave, that most of us would have been in one, right? Has anybody here not been in a fleet fight where they've been overwhelmed by the sheer number of things on their overview and have relied solely on the FC to broadcast targets?
I can say that I have.
You can say that you've been in a situation, or you have not been in a situation.
I have.
Right. No, so okay. So I'm assuming that everyone has because it happens all the time, right? The second you have 200 things on your overview and there's a 100-man fleet in front of you, you don't know how to sort the overview. You're not comfortable with the number of things that you rely on your FC to do things, or you rely on your HUD while looking at your HUD to see what's close to you, your tactical overlay, things like that. Right? Okay. So currently in fleet meta, right? What are the important things that an FC has to look for on his overview? An FC needs to know where the dictors are, how many dictors there are. I'm assuming everyone also knows what a dictor is. Everybody here knows what a dictor is, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Hoshi, Theodora, perfectly clear on what a dictor is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, very good. On what tackle is in general in a fleet, right? So, as an FC, when you're FCing a fleet, or even as FCI, as if you're helping the FC the fleet, if you're just in the fleet with the FC, if you're his second in command, secondary anchor, logi anchor, whatever, right? You're going to want to know where these things are, how many of these things are on grid, and how many of them are going to be effective or ineffective in stopping your fleet. If you're flying fleet logi, for example, I would also encourage everybody here, by the way, to just join fleet so that we can so that I can link you things so that you understand what I'm talking about. I won't be doing it much, but I think it'll be quite helpful. If you are not in...
Joining in a second.
Yeah, no problem. If you're in defense fleet and stuff, it's nothing super crazy. It's basically just going to be a few videos of Bob, I think just using a kitsune to damp logi, and how this could get confusing in a fleet fight or in like small gang situation. Right? Okay. So for now, we're just going to stick to fleets, and then I'll get into small gangs. And if we have time, I'll get into hunting and descanning and things like that. Right? But for now, we'll just go with like the basic stuff. Right? What will help the FC in a fleet. Okay. So how many of you guys actually have a separate overview for drones?
Friendly or enemy drones? Or
Enemy drones. Enemy drones. Very rarely would you ever need to target friendly drones. It's not an incursion
that's true.
footprint. I was hoping for. Come on, guys, we can be a bit more interactive than this. I think.
Well, I have it in Zitakas, but I never used it.
Okay, that's fair. So
I
sometimes.
don't even have one for it.
Okay. All right. How many of you guys have a separate overview preset or tab for enemy dictors, interdictors?
I don't.
Oh, okay. How many of you guys have a separate tab for maybe logistics, enemy logistics only?
I don't.
Okay. So
There is one in Zitakas, but I never use it.
yeah, exactly. So now you're in, like, just by asking these questions, I'm sure a lot of you guys can imagine situations where you would really require such a specific overview, right?
Now that you bring it up, yeah, I could imagine it.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say you're a capital FC, right? And there's a big fight happening in the north, or whatever, and you're moving supers through a fleet. You know, at this particular point in time, there are like a lot of things happening around in that situation. You want to get off the Keepstar grid, you're losing the fight, you're winning the fight. It's all crazy, nobody knows what's happening. You're confused, your test FC, that's FCing the Legacy Coalition, has suddenly disconnected. It's chaotic, you don't know what to do, right? At this point, what do? You're scared, you're confused, you're in a ship that costs 30 billion SQ, if you're in a Titan, you're in a ship that costs 100 billion SQ, you're like scared, your heart's racing. You may not have the finesse to actually, sort by name or ship type and find the sabers and then blow them up and then count to 60 seconds for all the bubbles to disappear and then warp yourself off, or what to warp yourself off to, right? So in this situation, especially when there's tie-dye and it's crazy and people are disconnecting and it's all, it's absolutely like just scary. What do? You want, obviously, a separate overview with nothing but dictors on it, right? Very, very, very basic. So all you have to do in that situation is shoot the dictors and you're out. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The way you do this, the ZTech-S overview makes it very simple. If you guys have not done this, you right-click, undock, obviously, type / open overview settings. I'm going to type that in Fleet right now. If you're not in, you might miss it.
What fleet are you in?
The name starts with Dojo, you should see it.
Thank you. If you have the ZTech-S overview, which I strongly recommend, right? Because I think it's the most up-to-date overview in the game. Someone's actively maintaining it. I think custom overviews are great. I think, was it Twilight or Theodora that had the custom overview?
I always do custom ones. What fleet are you in?
I'm in a fleet called Dojo Overview Manipulation. The FC is Pilinchi. That's my main.
Okay, that's why I can't find it.
Mm-hmm. It should all be in the ping. No problem, right? So when you open your overview settings, right, what you want to do essentially is first on the big overview on the right side, you just add a tab, right? The tab, if you're in a ZTech-S overview, I personally find this to be the easiest way of doing this, right? And it's the most convenient, right? You immediately find your overview preset that says command destroyers. That says interdictors and hictors, and you add them in there, right? If you need to add anything extra, if you feel like adding in interceptors, you can just go through that ship list and just add that in there as well. And of course, that'll just make life very, very simple. Go straight to your I'm sorry.
Again?
All right. Okay. Have you guys ever actually changed anything in your overviews? I'm assuming Twilight has, because he does custom stuff, so I'm not going to be too scared about that. But the rest of you guys ever changed anything in the overview?
I only do the temporary ones, like adding the jump gate.
So did you just right-click on the jump gate and say add to overview? Is that it?
Yeah, only that.
Okay. No problem. We'll go very, very slow. I don't have GIFs. I can make them right now. It's no big deal, but I don't think it's going to be that different. So first, let's everybody just open your overview settings. Let's make life like super easy here. We'll go quick. Preset. Find interdictors there. It should be highlighted in orange.
Yep.
target dictors. Now this overview will basically only show you interdictors, right? Your bracket preset in this situation, I would recommend, should always be show all brackets, so that when you're focusing on dictors, to target dictors through your spreadsheet table on the right side, you should be able to see everything else that's happening on your HUD, which is kind of important, right? Because like it will make no sense to only see interdictors on the map. I mean, you can always do that, but it's not recommended. Don't do that. Just don't do that. All right? Next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that they're only showing you enemy dictors, right? So you want to go to the appearance, right? And you want to set those priorities accordingly, which are basically already set for you in ZTech, so you don't have to stress out about that. That's totally fine. No sense in stressing about it at all. Right? And that's basically it. What this does is it essentially allows you to have an overview that focuses only on interdictors, so that when you're in a fleet and there's tackle, you can focus on only hazing tackle when you need to get out of a situation. If you're flying an expensive doctrine, this is super important, right? Always super important. And the next thing is, what happens when you're in a fleet? You're fighting with 50 caracals and you're fighting maybe 60 battle cruisers, and you say that, okay, we're going to take this fight, we're going to get a bomber wing to help us out, and they're going to bomb the living daylights out of the enemy, but you're not sure whether the bomber wing is going to manage, because bubbles don't help bombers, because bombers warp into bubbles, and that's a problem. Command destroyers don't help bombers, because command destroyers have things like bushes, which let them bush out of the bomb explosion sphere. And they also do this thing which is very annoying. They launch defender missiles as the game wasn't hard enough, right? So they do that. And so maybe your FC, or if you're FCing, wants to focus on the number of bushers. So this way you can clearly, very quickly, accurately give your FC clear and direct information about how many bushers are in the fleet currently. Again, just keep in mind, this is all very basic stuff. Like, everyone should already know this. I just think that this may not have been taught before, so I'm going through this, right? And that's, again, you do the same thing that you do with interdictors with bushers. That's just the practical application, is like, what am I going to do if there's bushers in a fleet, right? I can't bomb them. So we get the FC to kill all the bushers. That way they don't have links, assuming they're using bushers as their link ship, which most goons do when they come here to fight. And now that the busher and link ship is dead, they are free to be bombed by bombers. And the FC will be sitting there calling for things like defender missiles, and there will be no bushers left to launch defender missiles. Also, in case of Stuka fleet, if for those of you guys that are not familiar with fleet meta right now, is the initiative's favorite bomber doctrine. What they do is they use these bushers. By the way, does everybody know what a busher is?
Oh yeah.
Everyone here is. Theodora, you don't know what a busher is?
No.
Okay, so a busher is. I would like you to open up your ship tree right now. You know how to open up your ship tree, right?
Yeah.
Could you open up your ship tree? Hi, Nama, I'm taking a class. Open up your ship tree and look for command destroyer in the destroyer's wing. They should be an Amar, a Caldaria Galente, as well as a Minmata command destroyer.
Alright.
You see one? Which one are you looking at?
The
The Magus. Okay, so the Magus is a ship. It's a destroyer class ship. It can be tanked rather well. And what it does is, it does two special things that other destroyers don't, right? The first thing that it does is it enables you to give aura buffs basically to the rest of your fleet. It lets you improve your armor, your speed, your ECM resistance, your tracking speed, your tracking range. Sorry, not your tracking speed, your targeting speed, your targeting range, things like that, right? Like, it just makes your basic stats better. And that's very, very, very super useful. And most fleets rely on these things and calculate their important numbers based on these attributes. So removing them off the field is very important. But the most unique thing that they do is they're able to activate a module called a micro jump field generator. This micro jump field generator allows them to teleport a distance of 100 kilometers in whichever direction they are facing. So if the ship is moving upwards, and it activates this MJFG, the micro jump field generator, also known as a boosh. Any ship within 6 kilometers radius of the Magus gets taken along with it unless it is scrammed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what this allows you to do in practical fleet combat is, I think Adrian just linked you a streamable link, which is very useful right there. What this allows you to do in practical combat is it will take your whole fleet, if done correctly, and teleport it 100 kilometers away immediately. And naturally, positioning is important in PvP, so we can all see the advantages of this, right? No problem with that. But also, we can also see, for example, the advantages of killing these things, or stopping them from doing that, or having scrams on them. For example, there is an old doctrine, not an old doctrine, a doctrine that was used by Pandemic Legion in the Provi War. This was used while I was still in PL and taking Provi. And we used these things called ravens and rooks. And what they would do is they would sit in long range, extremely long range sniper ravens, which would shoot out to 250 kilometers. And they would just have them sit on top of a group of these command destroyers, and anytime a fleet ever got into range of them, they would immediately boosh away, so to dodge fleets. So they would reinforce fortresses by shooting at them and reinforce citadels by shooting at them, while just not ever engaging an enemy fleet if need be, or engaging from a distance if need be. So the way you'd want to capitalize on this is by isolating the way you'd want to defeat this, basically, is by isolating the command destroyers and stopping them. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is basically dropping a long-range dread and just shooting all the ravens. But that's, besides the point, really. You could also potentially focus down each one of them, or have things get on top of them and scram them. I will get to how you specifically sort that out in a second. If any of you have run incursions before, this will be a revival of that sort of thing, and it'll make life very, very, very simple and easy for you. I'll get to that at a later stage. And maybe I'll probably extend the class to maybe by about 10 minutes so I can squeeze it in. So it'll be super important to isolate these on your overview. And I'm sure everyone can see how it could be difficult to find these in the overview when you have 200 ravens on your overview, or 200 ravens plus the mixed bag of interceptors and kitchen sink ships and random people coming in to try to get on the Keepstar, on the whatever Citadel kill mail, etc., 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 etc. Right? So again, one practical use of changing or having a specific overview to isolate a key ship in a doctrine. That's basically what we're trying to do, is we're isolating key ships in specific situations to take them out of the picture. In fleet combat, specifically, in this particular case, right? How this can also be used is, there are multiple applications, really. So if you have a fighter and carrier overview, for example, right? What you can do with this, and this is very important, especially if you're Black Ops hunting. Has anyone ever been Black Ops hunting before?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So how can you tell if a carrier is ratting or if he is sitting on a Keepstar or a Fortress? You can't on D-scan, right? You can. That's the beautiful part about it. This is one of the things that, this is not a basic thing. Most people, 90% of the people don't do this. Sometimes Shadow Cartel, maybe 5-6 hunters really know this technique and do it properly. But what you can do is you can have a custom overview preset that has, you can edit your presets, obviously, right? At this point, I don't think anyone is basic enough here that they will not be able to figure out how to edit a preset. So I'm not going to get into it very specifically at the current minute. So this will go from being a mid-level class to a slightly more advanced class, but I'm sure that's all right, right, Hoshi?
Of course.
Okay. So what you can do is you can edit a preset to have a carrier or to have carriers and supers or whatever, as well as fighters. So when you enter the system and you descan the Haven or you descan something else or a mission or whatever, you just open your descan, you can immediately tell whether you've been on Intel before or whether that carrier is still ratting by the fact that you will see his fighters on the overview as well as the carrier. Because if the carrier is in tether range, right, his fighters are not going to be out. His fighters are going to be in, so they're not going to be on overview or on your descan. And that immediately tells you whether the fighter is engageable or not, right? Like that tells you whether the system is wasted or it's not. You can just move on, zip zap out, no problem. And that's one of like an advanced level of like understanding of the game, which 80% of the people don't do. Not even 80%, I would say 98%. Sorry, silly. All right, that's one application. That's another application right there, like the descan aspect of the whole thing. Is how to manipulate the overview to reflect on your descan, which enables you to like figure out certain things like drones in, drones out, fighters in, fighters out, that sort of thing. And what kind of fighters he's using, or whatever, all of that jazz. Let's see what I've. All right, so that basically, like, I mean, the next obvious thing is, we go on to tagging. How many of you guys have ever done incursions before?
Me, I have.
Okay, how many of you guys have done? This is incursion as Logi or incursion as DPS?
As DPS.
As DPS? Very good. So you know what tagging is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you open your overview settings again, and I'll give you guys a few seconds to do that. Let's get to that right now. Has everyone managed to open their overview settings?
Yeah, which tab?
No tab, one second. Alright, you can jump to columns. Right? The way I set up my overview, this is for small gang as well as fleet PvP, as well as the alliance tournament, etc., 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 etc. Is I like to have tags right next to my icons. I think this is super important because let's say, for example, let's take the example of let's say ECM. All right, you're flying. There's a fleet fight happening. There is suddenly a shitload of goons on grid in their MOAs, in their caracals, whatever, and their logi, right? And you're flying with like 5 of you guys. You're in a corp. You're good friends. You want to fly, and you want to make a difference with just 5 people. And you don't want to be a bomber because bombing is boring, and people shout at you if you bomb in Brave, right? In fun fleets, whatever. Okay, so fuck bombing, for example. Sorry for my bad use of language. Okay, yeah, I'm a bad man. Whatever. You want to make a difference, but you want to make a difference effectively, right? So the lazy FCs, not the lazy FCs, but the lazy small gangers would be like, oh, yeah, spread damp, spread jam. So let's just say you guys all decide to get into kitsunes. Okay, you're now in kitsunes and you're ready to go ahead and try to damp logi. The first thing that you want to know is how many logi the enemy have. And let's say you're 3 of you guys, right? 3 of you guys. How many jams does a typical kitsune have? Guys, interaction.
2 or 3.
Let's say 3, for example. Is 3 safe, Hoshi, do you think?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, we'll go with 3 jams for now, okay? Let's say your kitsune has 3 jams, okay? You obviously fit the specific jams for the kind of logi that they've brought. So if they brought Simis, you're going to use red jams from Minmatar, right? And now the important question is, who do you jam? Suppose you have 3 guys. They have 9 people, right? Or they have 6 logi. Let's say they have 6 logi. 3 guys, 6 logi, 3 into 3. So you have 9 jams and they have 6 logi, right? It's very simple. This is what you do, right? You can use your specific overview, which has just the logi on it. You can use your tags. You can sit in a separate squad in the fleet. You can tag your logi 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of having to call out names and remember names, right? And you can very simply just tell, like I could just say, for example, Adrian, you get 1, 2, 3. I'll take 4, 5, 6. Hoshi will take 7, 8, 9, right? And Hoshi will just double up on like whichever ones we say are not jammed, for example, right? So we can very easily communicate between the three of us, and you can say, 1 is jammed, 2 is not jammed, 3 is jammed. And I can say, for example, 4 is not jammed, 5 is not jammed, 6 is jammed. And then Hoshi immediately knows which ones to attempt, right? It's not hard to do that at all with 3 people in a separate channel, and effectively cancelling out 6 logi. Typical with good communication can maximize the effectiveness of their jams, right? Like, and not have people die for silly reasons, and just be efficient and not inefficient, and just be sensible, and you can know and you can communicate, and it just makes life easier. That's essentially what overview optimization is about. It's about making your life easier, because sure, you can look at the guys and you can call out specific individual names and tell people to do certain things, but that's not necessarily going to work. You're definitely going to want to communicate a little bit more than that, and that will help you. Right? All right? Yeah, I'm right. Okay. Now, so this is all fleet stuff. Right? Can anyone think of a situation where, changing the overview would be useful in a fleet situation that I have not thought of and I have not spoken about?
Not out of my head.
Really? I just gave you one right now, right? Like, so we spoke about isolating logi. Oh, let's just say another ship that I'll make it easier. Another ship class or ship type that you would like to isolate on your overview to make life easier for yourselves. Come on, guys, jams. What fucks up a fleet more than jamming the logi? If the jammers have set up specific overviews to jam logi, what's to stop the enemy FC from setting up a specific overview for jamming ships, just so that he can go down jamming ships?
Oh, true.
Because who's going to notice the 5 Griffins in a fleet of like 60, right? Or in a fleet of like 20, 30 or whatever. You're going to want to see, all right, what's on grid? We have a bunch of T1 shit on grid, and we have a bunch of jams on grid. I'm going to link you guys a video. You can watch it whenever you guys like. Just give me a few seconds. And there is one, it's where Brave beats and beats a goon fleet outnumbered, and it's all because of this one guy. And I can only think of one thing that their FC did wrong, right? And I'm just going to show you if I can find it really quickly. It's an FKF fleet. Oh Jesus. Oh shit. Oh my god, our Slack is too old apparently.
What?
Yeah. Alright, no problem. Anyway, basically this is what happened. Is that there was a Kitsune, I think it was Bob. Bob from Brave, or whatever, the guy that takes out the Talwars. And he was like sorry?
Baller?
Yeah, Baller Bob. Baller Tom. Right, that's the one, sorry. I think it was him at least. And he was in a Kitsune, and he was flying around, jamming the shit out of 3 logi perpetually. And they suddenly had half their logi, and they lost the fight. And their FC just simply never thought to switch to him and shoot him even once. And they were in Brutixes or in Canes or something silly like that, and they could have just killed him and started holding against their characters, and they would have won the fight. Hands down, right? Straight away. So, things like this, very important. If you're an FC, you need to think of what can potentially, what is silly that most people don't consider that can damage your fleet, and just immediately set up that overview, like right there, right? You want a separate overview for, and another thing that I've noticed, people usually will FC alone in Brave, but they'll be in the same channel. Normally what happens in like the larger alliances, the more experienced ones, is that they'll never FC alone, they'll have another FC. So someone will be watching for dumb stuff like this and will be calling them out as primaries, and just to have them shot and killed. Like Dictors, Jams, Griffins, things like this that will just disrupt your fleet and just make it very, very, very annoying to actually operate, like force multiplier kinds of ships. So I think with this, it should be fairly obvious what you can do in a fleet with the overview. If anyone has any questions at all, please ask me right now. I am going to extend this to maybe 20 more minutes if people don't mind, or I can do a part 2 section for the small gang later. Do you guys mind if I extend?
No problem.
No problem.
Does anybody have to go? Anything at all? Anybody? No? Yes? No?
No.
Okay. Any questions about fleet overview manipulation for fleet? None? Nope. Okay. Right. Let's talk about small gangs. Right. How many of you guys fly anti-tackle? I'm assuming you guys know what anti-tackle is.
Like rapid
Destroyers,
light?
your
Rapid light, yes.
frigate,
Sorry, toilet.
destroyers, attack frigates, something to kill the little pain in the butts like sabers.
Yeah, perfect, exactly. Omen Navy issue, Cinnabar, Retribution, things like that. Things that are designed to kill frigates and smaller things that will disrupt your fleet very fast, right? Okay. How many of you guys have flown anti-tank with guns and have just completely been super annoyed by the fact that you can't track an interceptor?
Well, yeah.
I'm sure this has happened to everybody, so like I'm just going to take your silence as me being a very, very bad lecturer.
Oh yeah.
Am I saying I'm a bad lecturer? Oh my god.
No. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, right. So how many of you guys use transversal velocity on your overviews?
I've got it
I
in there
do.
somewhere. It's hard to use.
Okay. How many of you guys use angular velocity on your overview?
Yeah, I got it in there, but I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Well, kinda do, but don't know how to use it. I guess is what I mean.
Okay, no problem.
I have it in my hidden column, and I just extend the overview window when I need it.
Okay.
I don't see it usually.
You don't see it usually, alright. Well, my small gang overview actually has icons, tags, distance, angular velocity, name, type, alliance. Usually I don't see alliance, I see name and type. Because if it's red, I can shoot it. If it's not, I can't, right? It's pretty straightforward, right? You know what I mean? But yeah, so I think normally when I do a tracking class, I explain what angular velocity is and how it can be manipulated very easily. But I'll just make it very, very short and simple because you guys are more advanced players than most of the new bro classes. Angular velocity is the number of radians that a ship covers in its sphere while orbiting you. For example, if you were a tank, right, and your tank had a 365 degree, whatever, like a full sphere of movement, right? Like a floating turret in space that could just spin and rotate and shoot in every single possible angle. The number of radians, which is the, like, for example, angle, right? The number of degrees that it could spin per second is what tracking speed is. It's basically if you are a tank and the flash is running around you in a circle, can your big tank turret actually keep up with the flash in order to shoot it, right? So you have every ship that is a gunnery ship with every specific ammunition has a specific amount of angular velocity that it can track at, right? The second you know this number, obviously there's different factors involved as well, right? Like, for example, the signature radius of the ship. We're not going to get into the details. This is not the class for that. It's not even that important, to be perfectly honest with you. The basic application of the angular velocity tab is that you see the lower the number, the better it is, the easier it is to track something. If you're the thing shooting the something. If you're the thing, like in the interceptor, for example, trying to evade the something that's shooting you, for example, the Omen Navy issue that's shooting you, the higher that number has to be. The higher that number, the harder it is for him to hit you, right? So what you could do is, if you have your angular velocity tab on your overview while you're flying a gunnery ship against an interceptor, like a large gunnery ship against an interceptor, and you're manual piloting, I'm assuming everybody knows at least what manual piloting is. Even if they're too lazy to use it, that's fine. No judgments. You guys know what it is, right?
Yeah. Clicking in space.
Yes, clicking in space. Clicking in space and manipulating your ship and forcing your ship to go in a specific direction without necessarily having it related to another ship like an orbit or a keep at range or something like that, right? So, if you're flying an artillery ship like a Cinnabar, and you have a bunch of interceptors coming in at you, right? Like one interceptor coming in at you, for example. You double click away from the interceptor. You look at your angular velocity tab, column while looking at the interceptor. And when it drops as close to 0 as possible, you hit F1, ping, you get a penetrating shot, the interceptor loses half its HP, gets scared shitless, turns around, runs away. That's basically what you use angular velocity tab for, ensuring that your guns apply damage. It's very straightforward. If this is slightly complicated, let me know. I will schedule a class for tracking, maybe, in the next couple of days or whatever, and it will be recorded, so it'll make life very easy. I'll break it down and explain how it works perfectly, and that will teach you everything you need to know about tracking, at least to a basic level. And then at that point, you can read all the articles on the internet, and you'd be able to understand the language pretty much. And that's it. So the angular velocity tab, one thing. Small gang, very useful. Transversal velocity, absolute crap. It should not be on your overview. Whoever's told you to put it on your overview, a lot of old brave guys used to do that. I think it's possibly because not many people understand the value of angular velocity. Not going to blame anyone, but take it from me, angular velocity is better than transversal velocity, period.
I mean, in a way, it's transversal is easier to read when you are in a slow ship.
Easier to read. Yes, but it's very simple to read angular velocity. You have a 1 and you have a 0.000. So if you're in a battleship, you need to make it a little bit bigger. If you're in if you're using medium guns, you need to make it a little bit smaller. The thing is, at one point of time, we used to have this beautiful thing called PIFA. We still have PIFA, obviously, but we used to have this beautiful thing called old tracking numbers, which CCP has now made very difficult to read by giving you an integer which is derived from the original number, which is kind of crap. Earlier, it was basically the angular velocity, period. So you could literally see that number and know, okay, I can hit things at this number and closest to this number. And then you see something and you just match the same number or directly off PIFA onto your overview. When I do a tracking class, I'll teach you guys how to convert that number and all that shit. But it's mincing things too much. That's not what we're about here in Brave, right? It's just the exact same way. You fly, you align your ship with the enemy ship. You look at your angular velocity tab. It gets close to 0. You know the number that it has to be off the top of your head. You know what it looks like. If it gets anywhere close to that, you hit F1, and your server tick works so that number is captured in your F1 whatever, and you do a penetrating shot. And people wonder how he's tracking frigates with an artillery carrier, but it was oh my god, this is actually happening. And so instead of getting 100% of your DPS, you actually get 120% of your DPS in guns. Usually when you fly missiles just hit everything all the time. So you get if you're using the right missile system for the right cruiser, destroyer, or whatever, you will get about 80% of its application as long as it's not standing still and it's not painted to shit. You'll get 80% of your paper DPS, and on gunnery, you have the potential to get 120% of your gunnery DPS. There is a whole separate long fucking part 1, part 2, part 3, sorry about the F word again, class on missile and tracking mechanics that I can give you guys, which I'm not going to do right now because I will lose my voice and you will lose your patience. So just skipping to that. That's the small gang variant. How would you guys use, for example, tags in a small gang situation?
I don't really.
Very straightforward. Okay, no problem. Let's think of it this way, right? You're flying in a gang. Is everyone still with me, or have I put people to sleep? You guys need to talk to me, man. I'm very insecure. All here, right? Hoshi.
Yeah, no problem.
Here, right? Hi. Hoshi. Oh my god, Hoshi's gone.
What?
Hi. Okay, he's still here. Okay, good. Theodora is also here, I'm assuming. Okay, very good. In a small gang situation, you're flying around with a bunch of a mixed bag. You have some Osprey Navy issues, you have some interceptors for tackle, you have some Lokis for screen, you have DPS obviously, and you have a whole mixed bag of things. Are all these words making sense to people, or am I going Greek Latin here for a few people?
No, it's fine.
Theo?
I'm tagging along.
Can I continue, or do you want me to explain a little bit more?
You can keep going.
Okay. So, at this point of time, suddenly, you have a link ship. You have a bunch of jackdaws, and then you have a stock. The stock is giving you links. You're manual piloting, you're all over the place. You're not necessarily on top of the stock. Okay. Because that's just not how small gangs work. The stock has to pulse links links only go out to like what 30-40 kilometers, right? There's every possible chance that you're not within 30-40 kilometers of your stock, but you need the links to survive, otherwise they'll catch you, they'll kill you. You're not going to be fast, right? Or fast enough for the fleet to keep up with the rest of the fleet. Do you want to, in the heat of that moment, always have to click on every single one of the purple icons on your screen and figure out which one of them is your stock? Because you have to be in range of him when he pulses links, right? If you wait for him to pulse links and then approach him, you gotta wait for 60 seconds to get your links. No, right? If you guys are with me outside, can you undock from GE right now, really quick? Get to the soda factory. Is anyone in soda factory right now? Or are you guys in different places? If you're in impasse and crabbing and stuff, don't stress too much. I can explain it vocally, but I'd like to just talk about it. Alright. Can you see the... Okay, so there are 2 purple frigates on the overview right now, right? You guys can see the purple frigates on the overview, right? Not on the overview, I'm sorry, on your HUD. Like right in front of your face. You can see the purple frigates?
Yes.
All brackets enabled, please. Yes, show all brackets, right click, show all brackets. Now there are 2 frigates, and I say, for example, right, since I'm the FC, I'm the links guy. Let's just assume I'm in a destroyer for now. Get on top of me, links pulsing, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. You guys don't know which one to approach. You're gonna have to look in, figure out which one the guy is. Now you know who I am. There's a big fat 1 on top of my face. Right? Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can tag myself, and for those of you that are not aware of this, the 1 appears on top of the symbol. So I'm 1, Adrian number 2. So 1 and 1 there, and there we go. Now we know who's who. Now, can you imagine the situation being very useful? Obviously, if you're in a situation where there are multiples of the same kind of ship coming at you, you can just tag them up really quick and say, you tackle 1, I'll tackle 2, you tackle 3. How many times have you been in standing fleet and you've seen 30 of your standing fleet mates jump to the next system and catch a gang of 5 people only to have 4 of them warp off because everybody just pointed the primary? I'm sure this has happened, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like maybe 50, 60 times at least, minimum, right? I mean, 50, 60 times a day, probably minimum, right? So you know, there you go, tags and overview manipulation directly for your small ganging. And, you know, that's it. I think I'll conclude the class for now. Simply because the rest starts to get a bit nitty-gritty and complicated, and it involves descan cones and things like that too, on how to apply, you know, for hunting and you know, bushing and things like that, like distance management and all of that sort of stuff. It's a bit more complicated. It takes some time. So thank you guys for attending this class. I hope you guys did enjoy it. I hope you guys found it useful. And if you have any questions, and you know, you like me to elaborate on certain points, if you think I could do it in like a few seconds, or ask me right now, I'll tell you if I can do it in a few seconds. If you think you'd like a class on something else, please mail Pilinchi. I'm gonna X in fleet so you guys know who it is. Just shoot me a mail and I will do my best to try to make a class for this. And yeah, hold on. Hopefully maybe we can get some more people in next class, because I think that this stuff is super important and it will take Braves PvP to the next level. I think this is like all a matter of convenience. It saves like a good 20-30 seconds of like hunting for who to do what to in fleets, and a good, like, you know, it'll just get you more kills in the standing fleet in general, right? And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for coming.
Cool.
That was my class on my part 1 class on overview manipulation and how to use them in fleet and small gang PvP.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.